Somebody gotta do. What?
It's your boy Japanese Tutor here, back at it again with another video. Welcome, guys. Welcome. We're gonna do the dragon today. Dragon, the fiery claws of the dragon. And I know I made a video about this previously, which you should check out, but that's more of my story with the dragon. Now it's time to get into the nitty gritty and actually understand what the dragon has to offer you guys. All right. So we're gonna start off with some main tests. So this is the dragon variation. The dragon variation is reach from these moves. So you're gonna play e4, and it only happens from e4, c5, knight f6, d6, d4, striking the center, take, knight f6, attacking the pawn, defending the pawn, also developing a piece at the same time, and then g6. Now here there are many variations, which we're not going to cover today. There's a lot of dragon variations, a lot of Sicilian variations, but today we're going to cover the dragon, which is g6. And we're going to put this bishop over here. So there are a number of ways where white can avoid the open Sicilian. That's not the focus of this lesson right now. I'm going to be covering the main lines. And also, chat, if you do have any questions, let me know. I'll answer them. Somebody on the video might have the same question, so me addressing it now saves us and everybody time. Okay, so what usually happens after this, bishop e3, bishop g7, f3, castles, queen d2, knight c6, bishop c4, bishop d7, and castles. So now in the book that I'm referencing, they want to go into the Tapala variation as the main weapon. But there's also a bypass going into the Solstice variation from this main line. So I'm going to show you what to do. Now, basically, white's best try by test, so a lot of people have tested this, is the Yugoslav variation, or the Yugoslav attack, where basically white is sending these pawns at you, attacking you with all of his pieces, and black's best try is to attack over here on these lines, potentially in some lines sacrificing a pawn to gain the initiative and gain open lines. Okay. Yep, you gotta watch it. So, after castles, rook c8, and don't start your attack too early. If you're the white side of this, don't start your attack too early, because you're gonna fall into some trouble, because knight takes is a discovery, and even if your queen takes, then we have knight g4, and you cannot defend both of them. Your queen is overloaded, and it's also attacked. So after the queen comes back, very easy move. We're going to capture on e3. You're going to capture, and then here. Another move is if you know your piece is going to get taken, but still not good at all. And we're putting so much pressure on this. Some might even argue that this is possible. And that is probably a nice way, because your pawn structure is done. Okay. And I'm sorry, outside is very, very noisy. So it's New York City. Sorry. Let me just close my window. We do like these premature attaculations. Yep. Do not attack before you are ready. So let's go back. So the move that you should play is bishop b3, preventing that. Okay, bishop b3, and there are a lot of moves here. The one which is happening is knight takes, bishop takes, and then b5. This is something that the book recommends. There are a lot of ways to play this. The way that I like to play this is knight e5. right? And 95 after h4, h5, king b1, we have two ideas. One is this rook e8 idea, and another one is a knight c4 idea. Okay. Bishop g5 is sometimes played. So instead of here, bishop g5. And then for this, we have rook c5, which was actually invented by Kasparov, if I'm not mistaken. And this leads to some very, very dynamic play. In some lines, you might even sacrifice your rook for an exchange on this line and play b5 and bring your queen in or your other pieces in. Also, it helps push b5. So they're a very effective move. In some cases, you might even consider taking this bishop and stopping their attack. All right. And if you guys have any questions, you're more than welcome to come in and ask them. Okay. So the next one, and we're going to just go over, is that we have to kind of notice some pawn structures. So that was the main line. We have to notice some pawn structures. So let's... Okay. As we can see, we have a pawn islands, right? 2 versus 3. And they have 4, or it should be like this, 4 versus 5. This is also going to dictate how our plans are. So our break is d5. We can immediately see that to change the pawn structure. Their attack is probably going to come from here. I don't think there's many queenside plays for white, even though they're better because of the c pawn. But if the c pawn were to leave, were to exit the field, then a potential queenside push might be kind of dangerous. But normally they would castle here. But there are some lines and quiet lines, which is not the scope of this lesson, that you're going to play maybe a bishop c4 and a castle, or bishop e2 and castles. Thank you so much for the follow. I really appreciate that. And what ends up happening in those variations is that boom, boom. Maybe d5 might be in order. Might be d7. Now we have to kind of change our plans. Now that the king is no longer on this side, and you're not going to push your pawns on the same side that you castle normally. So we have a little bit more time to develop our pieces. Maybe our bishop is now better placed over here instead of on d7. Okay. And also, one more thing is that this bishop is a very, very strong bishop. You do not want to trade this bishop off for this knight. You don't want to trade it off for this knight. In some cases, you don't even want to trade it off for this rook. Because most of the time, you're looking for a checkmate threat with this bishop in the dragon. And it's going to be a fight for the dark squares. I appreciate you. Thank you so much for following. What if he takes knight c6? That's a very good question. Okay, if he takes the knight on c6, what we can do is we're going to take with the pawn. And what this gives us is a better pawn structure. Remember how I was saying before that it was going to be a 2 versus 3? Now we have a 6 versus 4. Right? And this already seems imminent. We also have the c5 just taking the dark squares away. We have a rook b8 idea, attacking the pawn, trying to make this a little bit looser. Now b3, look at how dangerous this bishop is. And what immediately comes into my head is queen a5. Immediately. Where I'm attacking the dark squares, attacking, boom. And a lot of the time, Sicilian endgames are drawish, or if not better for black. It's just because of the pawn structure. And you can go wrong, you know, you can go wrong a lot of the times in Sicilian endgames. You're like, okay, I'm winning, I'm going to do whatever. And then you get into an endgame, you're like, oh no, his dark squared bishop is controlling all of this. And his A pawn's going to rush over here. And his rook now has so much play. He has control of the open C file, you know? So that's what happens a lot. Yep, GM Kansi. he knows it. He knows it. I think he plays a dragon as well, right? Am I wrong? So we're going to show you a game right now where it kind of shows you some of the fire that the dragon variation can produce. So we're going to go over this. Bam, 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 bam. And I think we played all the main moves until castles. And then this is actually considered the Chinese dragon with rook b8. It's actually a newer idea. I don't like these lines so much, but it's what the author in the text proposed. So we're going to take a look at it. And I'm going to read exactly what he said. This move introduces the Chinese dragon, an interesting and relatively new way of fighting against the Yugoslav attack. Rook c8 is how I recommend playing in this book, and is how I recommend playing as well. Okay, so knight captures c6. And G. Greeny, I think your question is answered here. B captures c6. And black has a nice position, even where he spent a tempo putting the rook on c8. White is really asking for trouble with the rook already on the b file. So normally, this rook would come here. And if this knight takes, boom, this is even an option right now because it is so powerful. So even spending that extra tempo to get the rook here is good. Now we play the Chinese dragon. We're golden. Now we gained the tempo essentially. So h4, queen a5. A lot of the time when white plays h4, you want to meet that with h5, but this is an ill-timed h4 because all my lines are open. What are you doing playing h4? Start protecting your camp. Start playing moves to protect your camp. It's not all lost, but definitely black is at least equal here. He has the initiative. All right, and here's another mistake. Knight b1. Knight to b1. This is what he says in the text. My opponent must have been worried about my attack, so he decided a queen exchange would be his safest approach. However, the g7 bishop, which is this bishop right here, is now allowed into the game. Can you guys find what is the best move here? What is the best move here? Oh, you only play the accelerated dragon. Got it. In this variation, could you play bishop b7 to eventually push your pawn to d5? That is an option in some cases, but only when their attack is really slow. But normally you want to have the bishop on d7 to support your pawn on b5 and get way out of the rook on c5. On c8. Rook captures b2. Rook captures b2. All right. Rook captures b2 is strong. But actually, knight captures. Because on rook captures b2, queen captures a5. What happened? What happened? You just lost the queen, guys. You just lost the queen. No, but in all seriousness, knight captures on e4. Now look at how insane this threat is. My knight is attacking your queen. Okay? My knight is also controlling this square. Your king has no escape squares. Let's actually highlight this in a different color. Oops. Sorry, guys. No escape squares. I bet. Okay? No escape squares. So, if they take, we have mate in one. And there's no way else to escape it because we have mate in one. So the thing that you have to do is you have to give up the queen. C3, you give up the queen. Queen D4, that's a free queenski. Bishop captures D4 and then even C5. Look how dirty this is. Because if we take, bam, now you can never attack us under dark squares. You guys see that? Knight captures E4. Exactly. That is not a move. GM Canty, right? So, yep, that is not a move. A queen for a king. All right. So we're going to go in. So that was one game, and it kind of shows you the attacking power of the dragon. So knight captures e4. That's strength, and I'm always looking for this. Whenever I'm in the dragon, I'm always looking for a knight captures e4. I'm looking for a potential d5 break. There's even some lines where you sacrifice 2 rooks, or you give up 2 rooks and a pawn for a queen, but then you have 2 bishops lining up against the king side. So it's very, very funny and very, very nice. Oh, thank you for subscribing to the YouTube. And also, guys, if you want to catch more stuff on the YouTube, come join us. Come join us on the YouTube. Subscribe if you're new. I have a lot of free lessons. I think I have over 60 videos of just chess content for you guys. So come through. All right, so now we're going to look at another game. And remember, these are all high-level players. So we're going to play until... Okay, and then they play this... No. They play this line. And I'm sorry again because of the New York City. It's loud over here. So the bishop b3, knight e5, h4, h5, bishop g5, rook c5, king b1, b5, and g4. And then, okay, so in this case, I don't think g4 is correct. It's not that it's not correct. I prefer playing h captures g4. That's just me. But in this, he played a5. And it's also this guy's recommendation. I really like how he's talking. So h captures g4 is his recommendation as well. The sounds of the city, exactly. Quite a few night sacks in the Sicilian variation. Yeah. Gwen Jones is definitely amazing. 0 to hero. Let's go. Exactly, guys. So a5 and then a4. If you're playing a4 when somebody's attacking your king side, you have done something wrong. Okay, a4. B captures a4. The knight captures on a4. And this simply, in his words, it simply accelerates black's attack. Bishop captures, queen b6. You're going to put on more pressure. Here, even though this bishop looks like it's behind its knights, you got to be careful because there's dragon breath coming. G captures h5. Now, look at these knight sacrifices, guys. Knight captures f3, attacking the queen and attacking the knight. If the knight takes, we're in a world of trouble. Knight captures e4. Queen c1 doesn't help. Knight captures a4. All of this pressure. Trying to stop it with c3. c3 doesn't work. It's about to be lights out for you guys. If he takes, rook takes. Forced mate. Rook d4 trying to stop the bishop from playing over here. Bishop captures g4, knight captures d4, queen captures d4, queen captures c3, takes. This is check. King a2, queen c4 check. King a3, rook b8, and it is sayonara. You can play whatever you want. It is a game over. Let's go back. Let's say they don't take it, which is probably what he did. Knight captures f3. And he says, Gawain Jones says, we should always be looking out for this blow. Black sacrifices a piece to open up the sleeping g7 bishop. And actually, this is what the funny part is. You don't have to be attacking a knight on d4 sometimes. Sometimes knight captures f3 is always the strongest move, even if the knight is not there. Just controlling these squares sometimes. It's some awesome stuff. So he played queen e3. Knight captures d4, rook captures d4, knight g4. And white threw in the towel. If queen d2, rook c4 wins the piece. Do you guys see that? This is a free piece. And I'm also attacking this, so you have to do something about it. If you take here, this is checkmate. If you try to play here, you can play here, or you can capture first and then take here. Or take here. If you try to protect everything, rook captures d4, queen takes, my bishop is going to take. If you play, I don't know, rook e3, queen b2 check. You know, I'm at least going to be up a bishop. If you play c3, protecting everything, you know, bishop captures d4, pawn, rook. And we have a lot of pressure, and we'll win this. Okay. Now we're going to go into a different concept, guys. So hopefully you like those like crazy tactics where they're like sack, sack, sack. A4 slows down the attack sometimes. But not here. Wait, this game looks familiar. You have to keep learning. Yeah, definitely. Keep learning. Okay, sounds good. Sounds good, Ghosty. Lights out. What if c3 exactly? We're going to take. That's why I play the c3 Sicilian. You're out of all these problems. There'll be some lessons against the c3 Sicilian and how to play it as well. It's a nice weapon that I like to employ sometimes. Okay, so now the next topic is the d5 break. So the d5 break, and I'm going to read exactly what he says, and then I'll give you my opinions on it as well. So it is often said that if black manages to counter in the center with d5 in the Sicilian, then he has at least equalized. Now, I wholeheartedly believe this. I try to look for d5 break whenever possible, and if they're not controlling that d5 square, I'm pushing that pawn if I'm playing the Sicilian. This is because white's main trump in the Sicilian is his extra space. In the dragon, the d5 break also rids black of any problems with the d5 square. This will be my recommended approach in many lines, particularly the long castles Yugoslav attack and the classical variation, both of which are covered in later lessons. Alright, so here's going to be another thing. So e45. Castles. e296 castles. And d5. Here after he has played bishop e2. Though it is not forced, I think this, or the author thinks the central break is a critical test of white's lower lines. So whenever I see that you're not controlling that d5 square, I'm do it one more time for the people in the back. I'm pushing d5. It's not forced. He's not saying it's the best line, but I think it's the most critical test, and so does he. And go ahead. Thank you so much for the follow. Yugoslav attack. You're getting pretty hyped. Exactly. It's fun to watch, but not when they play it against you. Exactly. Hey, King Old Man, how are you doing? Chess Bay, welcome, welcome. So bishop c4 stops d5. Exactly. Bishop d. That's why people play bishop c4. Not only is it developing a piece, it's also controlling c4. I mean, sorry, the bishop on c4 is controlling d5. Also, what you want to consider is the Maroczy bind against the accelerated dragon, because a lot of the times they save that tempo, not playing d6 early, so you can play c4 to control that d5 square so they can't break as easily. That's the main premise of the Maroczy bind. The Yugoslav attack is your favorite thing in chess? Well, welcome, Chessbay. I'm glad we're doing a lesson. So we're kind of seeing both sides. Okay. So d5 and e captures d5. So d5, e captures d5, knight captures d5. This is a very common line. B captures c6. Rook f. And also he has castled in this position. You should be glad. Yeah, so let's look at this line one more time from the beginning, and I kind of want to explain it just one more time over, and then we'll go through the game as well and tell you exactly what they're doing. So e4, c5, right? It's an asymmetrical opening. Knight f3, saying I'm going to develop a piece, and I see that you're controlling this square, and I'm going to fight for this square. Okay, d6, saying, okay, I'm going to control these two squares, and I'm going to play like a black square plan. d4, c captures d4, knight captures d4, knight f6. So with d4, they're opening up the game. This is called the open Sicilian. They're saying, hey, I'm going to open up the game, and I want to get all my pieces out, and we're going to have some fun. We're going to have some tactical play. Knight f6. There is also a f4 variation. Not the scope of this class. Very interesting. It's called the 11-fish variation. For some of you who like offbeat openings, I recommend that. You can catch a lot of people after you play knight c3, though. So knight c3, g6. Here would be the 11-fish. Try it out. Add some cool lines and some cool traps. So g6, bishop e2, saying, hey, I don't want this knight to go into g4. I'm just developing my bishop. So bishop e2, bishop g7, castles, knight c6, bishop e3, castles, queen d2, d5, and then e captures d5, knight captures d5, knight captures, kind of saying, hey, you're going to have a pawn island, now you're going to have 3 pawn islands instead of 2 pawn islands. The reason that pawn islands are important is because when you have pawns together, they can protect each other, but when pawns are separate, they can never protect each other. So now you need a piece to go ahead and protect. You see, you need a piece to protect your pawn instead of a pawn protecting a pawn. So you have a piece of higher value protecting your pawns of lower value, where we want similar value pieces protecting each other usually, or at least for pawns. We want our pawns to protect pawns and our pieces to be active. So takes. And this is a common structure after our central break. Black's queenside pawns are split and white has an outpost on c5, but black has sufficient counterplay down the b file and in the center. Okay. So rook f to d1. Let me just take the things. 11-fish attack is dangerous, but not supposed to be the best try for white for an advantage. Exactly, Gary Fang. The accelerated dragon allows d5 in one push, d6 and d5. Yep, exactly. The accelerated dragon is instead of doing d6 immediately, they forego d6 so they can play d5 in one push later. Right. Okay, and we're going to continue. Just checking up on Chess TV. I think they still might be in the other person's stream, but that's okay. Let's keep going. Queen c7, getting off of the line. And normally, when you do not know, and I learned this from one of my Russian coaches, when you do not know where to place a rook, try to place it in front of a queen. Even if everything's blocked, just place it in front of a queen. Usually, it's the right move. And this is an open file. Thank you so much for the follow. I really appreciate it. And guys, if you have not checked it out already, check out the YouTube. The YouTube has all of my lessons, and this lesson will be on it there as well. And bishop d4. Queen c7 and bishop to d4. Trying to trade off bishops. White spends a tempo to try to block in the g7 bishop, but it will only be temporary. So we're going to play e5 in this position. I am not trading this bishop off of this bishop just yet. I want to trade off, but I want to trade off on my terms. Bishop c5. Rook d8. Placing the rook in front of the queen. And probably doing some stuff if they don't move. In some lines. Thank you for subscribing. I really appreciate that. Okay. So knight a4. This is what they played. Knight a4. What does knight a4 do? And this is a grandmaster playing this. He really has trouble finding a plan. And black's position was already comfortable, but now white gets into a lot of trouble. So bishop f5. Bishop a6. I mean, he has to try to develop somehow, and this, I guess this is a square for him. Not allowing the rook to go to c5 maybe. And his plans maybe he doesn't want the queen to get active. So rook a to b8. And knight a4, knight b4. Oh, knight b4. c4, attacking the knight, and then knight b4. Looks good, I guess. Knight b4 is a discovery onto white's queen. So if you take here, I'm going to take here. So queen captures d8 check. Rook captures d8. And the note says that bishop d6 instead. So bishop d6, rook captures d6, queen captures d6, queen captures d6, rook captures d6, bishop f8, followed by taking on a6, so no matter where they go, taking on a6. Leaves black with two huge bishops for the rook. And honestly, two bishops, in my opinion, are worth a little less than a queen. They can go to all the squares the queen can go to, and they attack on diagonals, you know? They're very strong pieces. So, knight b4, queen takes, rook takes d8, queen takes d8, bishop captures b4. Black's material advantage is enough to win slowly, but white's poor coordination and vulnerable kingside make the win easy. So the way that he exploits this is bishop c2, b3, e4, attacking the rook, rook e1, bishop d4. And it is GG. That's tough. Okay, and the reason that it's tough is this knight can never move, right? So you're playing down a piece. If the knight moves, takes, hello, attacking the whole house. If the knight moves here, queen f6 just wins on the spot. If this bishop can't move. Let's say bishop here. Just queen f6 wins on the spot. So very, very bad for white. All right, and then we're gonna keep going. I think that he resigned here. Yeah, he resigned. And exchange sacrifices. So this is topic number 3. If you enjoy your time playing the dragon, you need to get used to sacrificing your rook for a minor piece. This can happen in many forms. One is a sacrifice on c3. This is a common motif throughout the Sicilian, and the sacrifice one generally thinks about when he's playing. Black damages white's structure and weakens the king's defenses. And black usually sacrifices the rook on c4, but the themes are extremely similar. There's some different variations, but the Burnett variation as well. You sacrifice some pieces on c4, sometimes on c3. Depends on where the pieces are. Okay, so we're going to see one game right now versus Ivanchuk and Magnus Carlsen. Magnus Carlsen, if you guys do not know, is the world champion right now. Or is he? He's playing a game soon, right? I think he's playing a... Isn't he playing a match versus Caruana to see who's going to be the world champion? Let me know, chat. And I think he is right now. Or soon. Soonish. Yeah, okay. Thank you. Thank you for the confirmation. All right, so here we go. We're going to look over a game. So e4, c5, knight f3, d6, d4, takes, knight f6, knight c3, g6, bishop e3, bishop g7, f3, knight c6, queen d2, castles, bishop c4, bishop d7, castles long, rook c8, bishop b3, not allowing this takes and takes idea, knight e5, king b1, a6. I've seen this move a lot. I'm not a big fan of it, but if it's good enough for Carlsen, it's good enough for me. This little pawn move became fashionable a few years ago, and the author feels that it must be too slow to be objectively best. In the Dragon, we're trying to play fast-paced chess, throw our pieces, throw everything, sacrifice, and we're just trying to checkmate our opponent. So a6, he said, most likely isn't the best move. All right, rook h to e1. This is a solid move, but h4 it was probably the better move. b5, bishop h6, bishop captures h6, queen captures h6, and rook captures c3. So there's a funny story that I want to tell you guys about the Dragon. So there was this up-and-coming grandmaster. He was winning all of his games, and then he plays the Yugoslav attack, and he allows rook capture c3. And Kasparov said to this up-and-coming grandmaster, "Who gave you your norms? You should recheck them. Why did you allow, or who allows the rook to capture on c3?" So kind of funny story, and always told me to, in the Sicilian, always keep in mind to capture on c3. That is one of my goals whenever I'm playing the Sicilian. Give me the capture, please, please, I'm begging you. So b capture c3. And a5. Black does not even have a pawn for the sacrifice exchange, but white's king will be vulnerable for a very long time. The b3 bishop is also short on squares. f4. Ivanchuk accepts the challenge of an extremely sharp game. Knight e to g4. Thank you guys. Thank you. Caruana is just 10 points under Carlsen or so. Yeah. It's starting tomorrow at 9:30 a.m. Wow. That's like 12 hours from now. Amazing. So, knight e4, queen h4, and then a4. Bishop captures f7. h3 is the alternative approach, and what he gives on h3 is that a captures b3. Let's say if c captures b3, then e5 gives black good play. And if knight captures b3, knight captures e4. Knight captures e4, or captures e4. Knight f6. And black has still not managed to pick up any pawns for the exchange, but he has the better structure and a long-term pressure on the queen side. Meanwhile, white's king side attack has been halted. There's no more king side attack. Can't do anything. You know, maybe queen c7, maybe put the rook over, maybe here. There's some lines, you know, bishop e6 might be coming. Bishop f5 might be coming. B4 might be coming. Okay. But he played a bishop captures f7 after a5. So a4, a5, a5, a4, captures. Remember, these are super GMs. Rook captures f7. e5. Knight d5. e6. Knight c3. Check. Okay. So there are two moves here. The one that he played and then the one that should have been played. If king b2, knight captures d1 check is easy. So let's not go over that, but king c1. King c1 was what he played. He said that the critical test was king a1. And that after knight f6, e captures f7 check, rook captures, captures here. And then rook d3. White has two extra exchanges in return for a pawn, but matters are far from simple. Following queen c8, queen g3, and b4, white will have to give back one exchange on c3 to slow down black's attack. Right? Rook captures c3, b captures c3. And this looks like a game. It looks like both people are fighting. Both sides are fighting. Okay, so e6. Bishop captures e6. Knight captures e6. Queen a5. Ivanchuk now decides black's attack is too strong and forces a draw. Queen captures g4. Oh, sorry, and the king is over here now. And so king c1, bishop captures e6, knight captures, queen a5. Captures, knight captures a2 check. King b2. Queen c3. King captures a2. Queen captures c2. King a1. c3, boom, 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 and it's a draw. So high level chess from these guys. Was able to draw down two pieces, but his attack was just so strong. The attack is so strong that it was a draw. Two pieces down. Do you guys see that? So, thank you, Gary Fang. Drawing the Sicilian really happens. Honestly, draws in Sicilian happen a lot because when you get down to it, a lot of the time when the dragon player gets out of the opening, it's at least equal for them, if not better, in a lot of Sicilian end games. So there are often quite a lot of draws, and some even say that you're only playing for two results: a draw or a win with the dragon if you're out of the opening and middle game. All right, and this is another game. Rajabov versus Carlsen, two very, very big names, and Carlsen again is employing the dragon. So let's go ahead and see what Carlsen has to offer this time. You got to go. Take care. Take care, Queen Bomb. All right, so we're going to keep going. All right, so the moves are e4, c5, knight f3, d6, d4, c captures d4, knight captures d4, knight f6, knight c3, g6, bishop e3, bishop g7, f3, knight c6, queen d2, castles, bishop c4, bishop d7, bishop b3, rook c8, h4, h5, castles, knight e5, going basically into the main line, bishop g5, rook c8, rook c5, king b1, rook e8. Now this is an idea that was introduced maybe, I want to say 8 years ago or 10 years ago when I first saw it, and I thought it was a really, really nice try. But he says that he actually recommends b5 in this scenario instead of rook e8. But the theme illustrated in this game is relevant to our repertoire. So let's go ahead and study it and get better at our repertoire. Okay, so g4. This pawn break is one of White's ambitious attempts at refuting the dragon. And Chess Bay, this is probably your favorite style of attack since you like the Yugoslav. Magnus continues to deploy the dragon or employ the dragon from time to time. A rapid game of his from last year actually went from, instead of g4, bishop h6 and a5. Bishop h6 is played a lot here. But okay, g4. H captures g4. h5, knight captures h5. Rook captures h5. Sacrificing the exchange to get the lines open. White sacrifices everything to get to black's king. This would be premature in the position with the rook on f8, but here it is critical. So if this rook is here, this is a little bit premature, but since it's not there, and they haven't played b5 yet, now this is a good move. G captures h5, and that little nuance is something you need to learn. Queen h2, knight g6, queen captures h5, queen a5. So they're saying on move 17, that On move 17, that knight d5 is the best move. That's what they're saying. So instead of here, knight d5 is the best move. Or as a main line, and it's a main line when they play b5, but here it doesn't make much sense because the e7 pawn is already defended. So, yeah. That's why you play rook e8 in this line, so it avoids kind of this line. But anyways, queen a5, g captures h5, opening up another line. What am I doing? Sorry, guys. Rook captures h5, 17. I was going over a line, side line. G captures h5, rook captures h5, g captures h5. There we go. Sorry about that. I went back a little bit and lost my place. f4. Rook captures g5. And this is one of the more important exchange sacrifices. And one important detail. So for those of you guys saying, "Oh, this is a free. This is free. We can just take it and win." So actually, you can not win because after here, we can just play e6, and you have a lot of things that are hanging. So yeah, I guess we can all see that if now the queen has to move, now the queen has to move again. Threatening a lot of stuff. Maybe queen captures on d6, but we have this pawn over here. It's a pretty bad, pretty grim for white. Okay, but f4 and rook captures g5. Black sacrifices the rook to prevent f4, f5, thereby slowing down white's attack. Let's do this. F captures g5 and e6. Knight f5. Now you see knight f5 a lot in the dragon, and white's trying to just storm the position, trying to open up lines. In this case, it's not good. They said that after this queen captures g4 should have been played, but it doesn't put black under any pressure. But okay, e6, knight f5, e captures f5, queen captures g6, putting some pressure over here. And now bishop e6. I'm threatening your queen. Your queen has to move. If you take it like this, if bishop catches e6, rook captures e6, queen catches f5, bishop catches c3, b catches c3, queen catches f5, e catches f5, rook e4, leaves white with a horrible endgame. This pawn is my saving grace. If you don't want this pawn to be my saving grace, this pawn is. And I'm going to come up here, and I'm going to have an outside pass pawn for nothing. I mean, protect this, come up, f6. I have so much to do. I can lock down this side. I'm not going to leave my only trump alone. I won't be, Haru. Hey, Kate, what's up? I'm not doing No Shave November. At least I don't think so. Yeah, knight f5 looks flashy, yeah. But it happens in a lot of other games, like in a lot of other lines. Not this line in particular, but knight f5 is an idea. Okay, so let's go back. Anna has a question saying, why can't you just take the queen? Oh, you cannot take the queen because the bishop is pinning your pawn to the king. So if this pawn were to move, the bishop would now be attacking your king, and you cannot put your king into check. Hey, welcome, Roy. Welcome. Hey, Surf and Sand, how are you? All right, and so we're gonna keep going. All right, so that would be a mistake. So we're gonna go back. So bishop e6, queen h5, f captures e4. Queen e5 is also said to be strong, just centralizing the queen. Rook f1, and they play queen a5, threatening checkmate. Taking a dominating post, and rook captures f7. Hello, we're in the house. And then after that, a captures b3. A captures b3, g3, saying, hey, I'm going to get another queen. Black has an extra pawn and a powerful one at that, as well as a better minor piece and a safe king. All good trumps. So what happens if he plays, I don't know, let's say g6? Let's say g6, you hang your queen, so you can't do that right now, unfortunately. King a2, rook f8, rook captures f8, king captures f8, queen g4, e3, g6, e2. And this is a mistake, actually, from Magnus Carlsen. A total mistake. Black should have played king e7. But actually, Rajabov actually played queen f3, check. Instead, he should have played queen d7, and he had enough to draw the game. Yeah, he has enough to draw the game. Right? So, but instead, queen f3, king e8, queen f7 check, king d8, queen g8 check, king d7, queen f7 check, queen e7, queen f5 check, king d8, not allowing any more checks, but you have queen a5 check, b6, queen d5, trying to check from over here, queen e1, queen a8 check, king d7, queen b7, king e8, and resigns. So, why not knight captures e4? Yes, you are. You are allowed to chat, Jack. Go ahead. It's off, so don't worry. Chat box is off, so don't worry. Why not knight captures c3? Wait, what? What do you mean, why not knight captures c3? Or knight captures e4? Oh, not in this line, but you were telling me in this line? or instead of like the rook moving, why not knight captures? Then bishop captures b3, and then we have a really, really, really nice move. Rook captures, right? Because it's a discovery. Do you see that, Roy? I think the word you mean is nuisance, not nuance, Jack. No problem. All right, and the next game that we're going to show you is sometimes sacrificing on d5. And like in the previous example, this is the defensive measure. This time, black waits for the knight to jump to d5 from c3 before giving up the rook. Okay, Jack. Got it. Sorry about that. That was a nuance. So e4, c5, knight f3, sorry. Knight f3, I was jumping ahead of myself. d6, d4, takes, and we all should be familiar. Takes, knight c3, g6, bishop e3, bishop g7, f3. And the reason that they play f3 here is so that not to allow this. Knight g4 maneuver will be after they play queen d2. So knight g3, sorry, f3, knight c6, bishop c4, bishop d7. And this is a game, Georgiev versus Komjanovic, sorry. Komjanovic. Bishop d7, queen d2. We're going to do this little castle maneuvers. h4, rook c8, bishop e3, h5, castles, knight e5, bishop g5, rook c5, g4, h captures g4, h5, knight captures h5, knight d5. Rook captures d5. Black immediately gives the exchange in order to slow white's attack and kickstarts queenside counterplay. He says that rook e8 is his recommendation. We will probably still take on d5, but we will wait for a few moves generally until white has made his own exchange sacrifice on h5. So we're going to wait until he sacrifices on h5 to take it. That's his recommendation. But let's see how this game goes, because we kind of want to see what we're playing in our lines. So bishop catches d5, queen b6, bishop b3. c3 is a safer move, which blocks the diagonal. Rook c8. And they play knight f5. Again, another mistake. This is a thematic try for white, but here it just fails, as it did in the other game. So g captures on f5. Rook captures. Knight c4. Black breaks through to b2. c4, queen h2. Trying to checkmate. Bishop captures b2. Check, king b1. Bishop e5, attacking the queen. f4, knight a3 check. King c1. Black finds a nice way to wrap up the victory. g3. Now look at how g3 kind of exploits the white setup. Okay. This is such a nice game, guys, and this is such a nice treat. So I'm going to go slowly, and hopefully you guys got it. So for those of you who play the Yugoslav attack as white, don't be too hasty to play knight f5. I know you guys want to play that maneuver. You just want to get that knight in there. Just want to, attack, but slow down your attack. We'll get there. We'll get there. So G3, F captures E5. And now this is what happens. If G captures F3, Rook captures C2. How are you taking? Here, Queen B2 check. Queen C2 check. Knight C4 check. Where are your pieces going? And that comes with a check as well. King G2. Thank you. Or we can play, oh, sorry, not that. We can play Queen E2 check. King H3. You know, we can play, there's so many moves here. Queen D1. I don't know. If they try to play this, obviously we have Queen G6 or Queen G4. I mean, everything just falls. And that's basically what this said. Everything falls. Oh, so King, also Queen E2, King G1, Bishop D4. This is a line that he gives in his book. But yeah. So let's go back. Okay, so Knight C4, G3. F captures E5. G catches H2. If Bishop catches E7, Queen catches B3. And that is a checkmate coming. Yeah, I mean, you can't stop this, and this is mate. And check. You can take Queen, and recapture C2 is mate. So, yeah. I mean, it just happens, and they don't have the perpetual. Oops, they don't have the perpetual. And recaptures D6 check. Bishop E6. Rook captures E6. F captures E6. Rook G6. What do they do? I mean, we're promoting, you know, so we have everything. Excuse me. Exactly, Jack. Got it, got it, got it. What book is this? This is the Dragon. This is a dragon. Dragon. But thank you. It's got to go. Take care, Queen. And so now we're going to keep going. That was a really nice finish, too. That was a really nice finish. Queen takes on B3. Sick. All right. And we're going to go over this one more example, and then we're done. Preserving the dark square bishop. As we have already seen, the G7 bishop is black's pride and joy. So white often attempts to exchange it by putting his bishop on H6. Sometimes black's bishop is so powerful that he can simply drop it back to H8 and give up the F8 rook instead. This is one of the earliest examples of a Yugoslav attack. And guys, if you had not already signed up to YouTube, come on the YouTube. If you want other like-minded people, get on the Discord and follow me everywhere else. All right. Let's go into this game. This is by Panov and Vladimir Simagin. Thank you for following. I really appreciate that. We're trying to hit 1,000 followers. Let's get this. Right? So E4, E4, C5, Knight F3, d6, d4, c captures d4, knight captures d4, knight f6, knight c3, g6, bishop e3, bishop g7, f3, castles, and knight b3. And I've seen this a lot at lower level play as well. Oh, thank you so much for following Disrupted. I really appreciate that. Thank you. This retreat is premature, but this opening was relatively unexplored at the time, and players were still experimenting with different setups. So bishop e6, attempting to exploit white's move order. Queen d2, knight bd7. Seemagan gets creative. Knight c6 is more sensible for the knight, and it's going to be examined later in later on lessons. Castles queenside, knight b6, g4, rook c8, bishop h6 question mark. This plays into black's hand. h4 would have been a better way of exploiting black's inaccuracy or slow queenside play. Bishop h8 question mark. An interesting concept, but not the strongest. Exchange sacrifice here. Most dragon players have seen this theme, so many times their fingers would be itching to play bishop captures h6. So this is the move that they do recommend: bishop captures h6, queen captures h6, rook captures c3, b captures c3, and queen c7 with extremely strong play. But that's not what happens. Bishop captures, queen captures. White should be clearly better with his extra exchange, but it's interesting to see how he drifts. The dark squared bishop gives black good long-term counterplay. Knight d4. White should probably keep attacking with something like h4 rather than getting distracted by trying to consolidate the extra material. Bishop c4, g5, knight f to d7, bishop h3. The computer does not mind this move, but with the h-file blocked, white will now struggle to create any attacking chances. e6, king b1, knight e5, f4. It's coming, guys. My spider senses are tingling. Because you see this? You see this? You see this? It's happening. Knight f3. A wonderful sacrifice. Giving up a whole piece to open the diagonal. We have seen the theme of sacrificing a knight on f3 a few times already, but normally there's a pawn to capture on that square. Knight captures f3. Bishop captures c3. If queen captures, then we're going to do bishop captures a2, king captures, rook captures, b captures. With a good game. You have queen, two rooks. They're missing some stuff over here. You have queen c8. It's pretty strong. So you have a lot of play. You have a lot of play here. But they instead took with the b pawn. So they took with that pawn, b captures c3, d5, opening up the way for the queen. Queen c1, knight a4. All of black's pieces are now involved in the attack, while the white's White's h1 rook and h3 bishop are mere bystanders. And he actually played e captures d5, which is not the best reply. Knight captures c3. There's a lot of pressure, though. No, not knight captures c3. Instead, bishop captures a2 check. King a1. If he were to play king captures a2, that would lose to knight c3 check. If king b3, queen c5. If king b2, obviously queen b4, and their mate follows. And if you guys want to see mate, that's mate. Oh, sorry. And if knight b3, queen c5, and basically what we're going to do is after maybe queen a3, then queen c4, has to go back. Knight captures d1, captures here, captures c2, king a1 captures, a2, rook c2, king b3, queen d3, queen captures d5, queen c5, queen mate. Very dangerous, this dragon. Okay, so king a1, queen c5, knight c3 was stronger, but you play queen c5, d captures e6, knight captures c3. White could have saved himself with e7, but instead he played rook d4. Bishop captures e6, bishop captures e6, f captures e6, rook a4, the only thing to prevent anything. Because let's say they don't play rook e4, let's say they play some nothing move. Then obviously checkmate. So in order to prevent that, he saw that rook a4, knight captures a4, and you are how many pawns down? 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. You're one pawn down, you're probably going to lose the second pawn, right? So c4, rook d8, king a2, queen b4, threatening mate, also threatening some stuff over here. Also, maybe potentially getting here. Rook e1, d3. Rook captures e6. Knight c3 check. King a1. Queen a5. Queen a3 and checkmate. Why not queen a5 instead of f captures e6? Oh. I am reading for some book. It's called The Dragon. The Dragon. And what I want to do is I want to give you my insight on the dragon as well. So also what I'm going to do is recommend some lines for both. Okay. If your opponent plays like this and they have a knight on b6 preventing from playing b5, there's something wrong. You should be playing h4, h5 immediately. Okay, that's one way to do it. You don't need this bishop so active. You see this? Just start attacking. They're not attacking you, you're attacking them. You know, maybe here, maybe your other rook can capture. Maybe you can play on the f file. If knight c4, then you can be like, okay, whatever, and then just play like queen d3. Protect your whole house. Maybe knight b3 coming. Maybe knight d5 is coming. But anyways, something is coming. And it's coming fast. Okay, guys. that's all for today. Thank you guys so much for being here. This ends the YouTube video, and hopefully you learned something. So if you learned something, consider subscribing and liking the video.